Hello, coders. Hello, everyone. Hello and welcome. Let me know if you can hear me in the chat and we will go ahead and get started. Let me know. Thank you so much. All right. So as always, welcome everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome to another week of ICD-10-CM Guideline Mastery Sessions. I am Miss Haley, your lead instructor for this class, and I am always so excited to welcome anyone new and returning coders to our Monday night class. So we are going to be beginning week 5. So today we will be going over and reviewing some circulatory guidelines. So circulatory is going to include topics like hypertension, atherosclerotic coronary artery disease, angina, infarctions, TIA, and strokes. And like I did last class, I'm going to be using our ICD-10-CM guidelines and also referencing our MCG manual in this session. So make sure that you have both of those handy if you can. And we will also be playing our live Kahoot game at the end of the session to test our guideline knowledge. And I will also have the explanation and guideline referencing that we did last session as well, so we can further master our guidelines. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and read our copyright. So ICD-10-CM copyright 2026, American Medical Association, all rights reserved. Fee schedules, relative value units, conversion factors, and or related components are not assigned by the AMA, are not part of CPT, and the AMA is not recommending their use. The AMA does not directly or indirectly practice medicine or dispense medical services. The AMA assumes no liability for data contained or contained heroin. ICD-10-CM is a registered trademark of AAPC. AAPC content found within this presentation is copyright of AAPC. Keyword concept, FTR, CHUN, AMCI Fab 7, AMCI ICD-10, FLIP, TAP, and MCG are trademarks of AMCI. The credentials CPC, CRC, COC, CPMA, CPB, CPPM, CPCO are owned by AAPC. AMCI does not own the rights to these credentials. The credentials CCA, CCS, CCS-P, RHIA, RHIT are owned by AHIMA, and AMCI does not own the rights to these. All right. So with that all being said, we are going to go with a warm up if everyone is ready. All right, and let's get into our first warm up question of the day. All right. Oh my goodness. All right, so according to ICD-10-CM guidelines, what is the length of time for a myocardial infarction to be considered acute? This is just going to be the code for acute myocardial infarction. But what is the length of time for it to be considered acute? Is it A, up to 1 week, B, up to 4 weeks, C, 8 weeks, or D, only at the time of occurrence? I'll give you guys about a minute and good luck. All right, all right. So that was kind of an easy one because I left the code up here. So if you looked over here, you would be able to do some investigative work. But if you're looking for the guideline that we are referencing, it is going to be the guideline IC9E1. And this states that myocardial infarctions are classified as acute if the duration is 4 weeks or 28 days or less from onset. And then this is going to be the code that we're looking at, obviously. And everyone got that one right. So amazing start to the night, coders. We are going to go ahead and move on to our next question. So yes, it will be B, up to 4 weeks. Oh my goodness. I don't know why I did that. Okay, so according to ICD-10-CM guidelines, which code is used for elevated blood pressure reading without diagnosis of hypertension? I don't know why this is on here. Oh no. Let me. All right. Give me one. Yes. Yes, Martine. All of these recordings are going to stay on YouTube. They're going to stay on YouTube. I am going to stop sharing my screen for just a second and make sure that none of the other answers are up here, just so we can get our practice in. So just give me one second. Let me just make sure, because I don't want this to be a reoccurring situation for the rest of the time. We don't want that. All right. So sorry, everybody. Okay, give me just one moment and we will fix this. All right, perfect. All right, so sorry. We are fixing it. And then yes, so at the end, we're going to be doing a Kahoot game, and I will have all of the explanations up because I know that I was getting some of our feedback, which we are going to post continuously our feedback at the end of the class so that we can help you guys learn and make sure that everyone is getting all the learning that they need. All right. I'm so sorry about this, guys. I just don't want the answers to be posted while we are trying to figure it out. That does not help with any of our practice. All right. This will just take me one more second. I'm just trying to find the right adaptation for this one. All right. And I just have to do one more slide and we will be good to go, and I will share my screen and we will get back to our ICD-10-CM guidelines. How have we been feeling so far, though? While I am fixing this last slide, how are we feeling about the guidelines? What has been the most complicated guideline section that we've done so far? I know that we've done our infectious diseases. I know that we've done our endocrine with our diabetes. I know that we've done like sepsis. Is there anyone that's harder than the others? I know that everyone has been killing out all of the O codes and stuff like that. All right, perfect. While you're answering that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because we are ready to rock and roll. Again, so sorry about that, everybody. All right, I'm going to start this. Perfect. Okay. And it should be good now. All right. Awesome. So let's click past this. Perfect. All right. So we went over this one. Amazing. And then this is the one that we were looking at. All right. Yes. So according to the guidelines, which code is used for elevated blood pressure readings without diagnosis of hypertension? I know I have this one up here already, but we are going to be using the guideline IC9A7 to solve this one. So the rationale is going to be, it tells us to code R03.0, which is super helpful when we're trying to figure this out because that's the question. So elevated blood pressure reading without diagnosis of hypertension unless patient has an established diagnosis of hypertension. So you see right here, R0 3.0. So that is going to be the answer for that one. All right. And now that everything has been fixed, perfect. Amazing. Okay, so sorry about that, guys. Okay, so next warm-up question. What ICD-10-CM codes are reported for uncontrolled hypertension with stage 3 chronic kidney disease? Is it going to be A, N18.9, I12.0, B, N18.30, I12.9, C, I12.9, N18.9, or D, I12.9, N18.30. I'll give you guys about 45 seconds. Good luck. All right, amazing, amazing. It seems like you guys are all killing it in the chat. So this is going to be the guideline we are going to be using. We are going to be using guideline IC9A2. So this is going to state that first we're going to assign a code from category I12 since it's coding for a hypertensive chronic kidney disease with both hypertension and a condition classified. So the category is going to be N18 is going to be what we're going to use second. And this is going to be assuming a link between hypertension and chronic kidney disease. So N18 is going to account for the level of the chronic kidney disease. So if you look right here, this is also going to be in the MCG manual with the guidelines. So under chapter 14. So if you look at this gives you kind of a guide to how you're going to code the different stages. So we have stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, and ESRD. And since right here it says we're coding for stage 3 chronic kidney disease, this is the code that we are going to be using in this section. And so that is going to make our answer D, I12.9, and N18.30. So yes, again, accounting for the N18.3, you look down there, and that is what you're going to get for that. Everyone got that one right? Amazing job. All right, and I believe this is going to be our last warm-up before we get into some other scenarios. So let's get into it. What codes, according to the ICD-10-CM guidelines, describe a patient that has hypertension with left heart failure? Is it going to be A, I10, I50.1, B, I11.0, I50.1, C, I11.9, I50.1, or D, I50.1, I11.0? I'll give you guys a few seconds. You got it. All right, I'm getting a lot of awesome responses in the chat, so we will go ahead and break this down. So our guideline we are going to be using is right here, IC9A. So according to this guideline, there is a presumed causal relationship between hypertension and heart involvement. So in this case, the patient has hypertension and left heart failure. In the ICD-10-CM alphabetic index, you're going to look for hypertension, and then you're going to go to hypertensive heart with heart failure, and this is going to lead you to the code I11.0. That is going to be our first code. And then there is an instructional note under code I11. I think I have it right here. Oh, so B is going to be our code. Oh, that did not. Go back. Okay, so there is a note if you go to code I11 that tells us to use an additional code to identify the type of heart failure. So that is why the additional code is going to be sequence second. So the patient has left heart failure. So if you look again in the ICD-10-CM alphabetic index, you're going to go to failure and then go to heart, left ventricular, and then you're going to be directed to see failure ventricle, and then it's going to direct you to code I50.9. And as always, you're going to verify this in the tabular list, and that is going to lead you to the answer of B, which everybody put. So amazing job, guys. That was a great warm-up. Hello, all the new people that are in the chat. Hello and welcome. You guys are just in time because we just finished our warm-up and we are about to we're doing our check-in. How are we feeling? Are we ready for some more in-depth scenarios? You guys are killing this circulatory system guideline so far. I am excited to get into these scenarios and then move on to our Kahoot game. So let's go ahead and get started. Outstanding indeed, I agree. All right, so this is going to be our first scenario of the night. All right, so Mr. Heartbreaker goes to his primary care provider with dizziness. On physical exam, his blood pressure is 200/130. After a complete workup, including laboratory tests, the provider makes a diagnosis of end-stage renal disease and hypertension. What are the appropriate diagnosis codes for this encounter? Is it going to be A, I12.0, N18.6, B, I10, N18.6, C, I12, or D, I10, N18.9? I'll give you guys about a minute and a half, and good luck. All right, I'm seeing some great awesomeness in the chat. If you are still working on this scenario, just go ahead. We are going to just go ahead into our explanation. So this is going to be our guideline. All right, this is going to be the guideline we're going to be using. We did use this guideline previously in the warm-up, and this is a really popular guideline. So this is not going to be the last time we will see it. So like we did before, first we are going to assign codes from category I-12 to account for the hypertensive chronic kidney disease. And then we see right here that it is stage 5 chronic kidney disease or end-stage renal disease if we're looking at this chart. So ESRD obviously stands for end-stage renal disease. And right here in this scenario, this would definitely be a keyword when we were looking for that. Right here it says end-stage renal disease with the hypertension. So that is going to be the code that we are going to look at, the N18.6. So that is why our answer is going to start off with I-12, that hypertensive chronic kidney disease with stage 5 chronic kidney disease or end-stage renal disease. And then if you look at the under note right here, it says use additional code to identify stage of chronic kidney disease. So the guideline and the note under here are both going to direct you to use that second code. And that second code we're going to be using is going to be N18.6, end-stage renal disease. And so that is going to make our answer A, which I believe, again, everyone put in the chat. So great job if you got that one right. That was a great first scenario to start off on. Let's move to our next scenario. All right, so our next scenario, Mrs. Wagley is admitted after being found unresponsive at home. The patient had right-sided hemiplegia and aphasia from a previous CVA. The provider documents a current cerebral infarction due to occlusion of the right middle cerebral artery as the final diagnosis, and the patient is transferred for rehabilitation. What ICD-10-CM codes are reported? Is it going to be A, I65.29, B, I67.89, I69.954, R47.01, C, I63.511, I69.351, I69.320, or D, I67.89, I69.959, I69.920. I'll give you guys about a minute and a half, 2 minutes, and good luck. All right, I'm seeing some great participation in the chat. As always, if you are still working on this scenario, keep going, and we are just going to go ahead and dive into this explanation. So for the guidelines we're referencing, we're actually going to be referencing 2 guidelines to solve this scenario. So our first one is going to be IC9.D2. So the coding sequence guides you to first use from category I60 through I67. So to look, and you're looking in your ICD-10 alphabetic index, you're going to look for infarct, infarction, cerebral due to occlusion, and this is going to direct you to the code I63.5. And if we go back to this scenario, we see that the right side is being affected. So this is definitely going to be a big keyword or key words that we're looking at in this scenario. So it's saying right side is being affected. And the reason we are coding the right side as the dominant side, this is going to be our second scenario or our second guideline we're going to be using. So this is the guideline that's referencing dominant versus non-dominant. And this is going to be the ICD-10 code IC9D1. So if you see right here, if you have an ambidextrous patient, you're going to default to dominant. If you have left side affected, you're going to default to non-dominant. And if your right side is affected, you're going to default to dominant. So that is definitely a big guideline that's going to clue you into what code that you're going to be using. So using that guideline, because the right side is being affected, but the dominance is not documented, the default for the right side being affected is dominant. So that is why we are going to be using right here, because it says right side. Our first code is going to be that I63.511, which is going to be cerebral infarction due to unspecified occlusion or stenosis of right middle cerebral artery, because it states again that it's right side. And then we're also going to be using code I69.351, our hemiplegia and hemiporosis following cerebral infarction affecting right dominant side. So if you look at our first guideline, it says that that is what we're going to be coding second. We're going to be coding from our category I69 if it's related to an old CVA. And if you look in the scenario right here, it says that we're going to have hemiplegia because of a previous CVA. So that is why we're going to be using the I69 as the category for our second sequencing code. And we're going to be doing our right dominant because we're using our second guideline and the right side is affected. So we're defaulting to dominant right there. And then we are also going to be having to code for the aphasia as well. So we are going to have our third code right here, and it is going to be I69.320, aphasia following cerebral infarction, because it says that there is an aphasia from the previous CVA. And so we're going to be using those three codes. So using the same alphabetic index research, it's going to guide you to using those codes. And this takes you to that all three of these codes in the tabular list. You definitely want to check those. And it is going to guide you to our answer, C, I63.511, I69.351, and I69.320. All right. Does that explanation make sense? I know a lot of people did absolutely amazing with that one. I thought that that was one of the trickier ones, to be honest. So that is great work on y'all's part. I know that you definitely have been researching and looking and studying your guidelines. So absolutely awesome. Pat yourself on the back. If you learned something, as Miss J always says, that is priceless. And we are going to move to our next scenario of the night. So Mrs. Waffles was given thrombolytic therapy for an acute myocardial infarction, STEMI, of the anterolateral wall, which converted to an end STEMI. What ICD-10-CM code is reported? Is it going to be A, I21.29, B, I22.0, C, I22.8, or D, I21.09? I'll give you guys about a minute and a half, and good luck. All right. As always, great participation in the chat. We are going to go ahead and work on our explanation. So as always, we are going to display the guideline we're going to be using. And so our guideline is going to be IC9E1. So according to this, this is going to codes for acute myocardial infarction. So AMI, identify the site, such as the anterior lateral wall or true posterior wall. So this is the clarification. This is what I'm referencing to. So the same section goes on to state that if STEMI converts to NSTEMI due to thrombolytic therapy, it is still coded as STEMI. So that is obviously very important, especially in this guideline right here, or especially in this scenario right here, rather. So if you look at the far right column right here, you are directed to use category I21 through I21.2 if the infarction side is specified. So right here, this is what we're referencing right here. And so if we're using all these guidelines and focusing on all this guideline goodness, you will see that this is going to direct us to our I21.09, which is going to be ST elevation, myocardial infarction involving other coronary artery of anterior wall. And if you look under here, it will give you all the examples of what would be included in this. And so that is why we are going to be led to code I21.09, and that is going to be D, which a lot of people got right. So amazing job. Yes. So definitely look at the guidelines. I know that would be hard to, that would be a hard one to get if you did not look at the guidelines, but you guys are really putting in your work. So I'm pretty much everyone got that one right. Again, great work, everybody. And let's move on to our next scenario. All right. So our next scenario, yes, they did nail it. I agree. You guys have been nailing all of these questions. You guys are killing it tonight. Spectacular indeed. All right. So next scenario, a 55-year-old patient is coming in for follow-up of his essential hypertension and cardiomegaly. Both conditions are stable and he is told to continue with his medications. The two conditions are unrelated. What ICD-10-CM codes are reported? Is it going to be A, I11.0, I51.3, B, I10, I51.7, C, I51.7, or D, I11.9, I51.7? I'll give you guys about a minute and a half. All right, great work in the chat. Great work in the chat. So here is going to be our guideline. We are going to be using right here, IC9A. So if you look at this guideline, it states that if the documentation does not have a causal relationship between hypertension and heart disease, the conditions are coded separately. So if we were looking at keywords to focus on in this scenario, I feel like the most or the biggest keyword would be unrelated right here. That is definitely a big clue, and that is what kind of pushes you into looking into this guideline and how you're going to code it. So since, again, that it says that they're unrelated, we are going to be coding it separately. So a good look at this would be if you look at the far left column, you see that you're coding for if you're coding for just hypertension right here, that you're going to be using code I-10. And to double check, you obviously go to the alphabetic index, and then you're going to be also guided to code I-10. And then if you look for the cardiomegaly, is going to lead you to I-51.7. So we have our I-10 right here, our essential primary hypertension. And then because they're unrelated, we're also coding for the cardiomegaly and using the same kind of alphabetic index that we did with hypertension. We're going to look at cardiomegaly right here, which is going to lead you to the code I-51.7, which leads you to the answer B, I-10 and I-51.7, which I think everyone got right. So great job, guys. Way to use those guidelines. That was awesome. All right. Flawless. I know. I feel like I am just blown away by the participation and just everyone killing all of these scenarios all night. This is a great Monday class. And this is going to lead us to our last scenario of the night before we move on to our Kahoot. All right. So let's end on a good note. I know you guys got it. So our last scenario, a 63-year-old patient is seen for his hypertension with stage 5 CKD and myocardial disease. The conditions are stable and he is told to continue with his medications. The myocardial disease is unrelated to the hypertension. What ICD-10-CM codes are reported? You guys got it? I'll give you about a minute and a half. All right. As always, great participation in the chat. And we are going to go ahead and explain our last scenario. So here is going to be one of the guidelines we're going to be using. I told you this was not going to be the last time we are going to see this guideline. It is a very popular one. So In this guideline, it indicates that there is a presumed causal relationship between the chronic kidney disease and the hypertension. So if we are following the sequencing of the far right column, we are going to be selecting our I-12 code first. And if we look right here, we are going to reference this again, where we can have the stages. So if you look at our scenario, it states that the stage 5 CKD is what our patient has. So if you look, that is how you're going to code it. So the ESRD, or right here, the stage 4 severe. I'm so sorry. That is what we're going to be looking at. And so that's the sequencing that we're going to follow. So I-12, hypertensive chronic kidney disease, with stage 5 chronic kidney disease or end-stage renal disease. And then, of course, we're going to look at this note right here to use our additional code to help us code what stage. And we are in stage 5. So that is why we are using code N18.5. All right. And then because it says that the myocardial disease is unrelated to the hypertension, we can use, it's not on here, but you can also use the same guideline that we used in the last scenario, that if it states that that they're unrelated, that the two are unrelated, that you have to code them separately. So with that being said, you are also going to include the code for the myocardial degeneration. And if you look in the alphabetical index, you will find that the code for that is going to be I51.5. And that is going to lead us to our answer being A, which, I mean, always surprised, always shocked. It is always amazing when you guys everyone in the chat is getting the answers right. This was an amazing night for scenarios. You guys killed this. Way to practice your guidelines. It definitely is showing. So great job, great job. All right, and now we're going to move on to our Kahoot game. All right, so if this is your first time with our ICD-10 Monday classes, at the end of each class, we do a live game just to have some sort of like a little fun competitive game. I'm going to include the explanations at the end. We will go over them if you guys have any questions about those. But we're just going to do 10 Kahoot questions, and they are going to be related to our circulatory guidelines. So it's a way to just get some extra review in. So if you haven't joined, you can either join on the website, www.kahoot.it. I need to change that. I don't know why it says .it. But Miss Olga put the link in the chat. So thank you for doing that, Miss Olga. Or you can download the app. Or if you want to, some people just put their answers in the chat. However you want to do it, as long as you are participating, we are happy to have you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can go grab our Kahoot game, and we can go ahead and get started with that. And I will give you the PIN number, and then you will just put it into the Kahoot, and you will be able to spin for a character, and then we can go ahead and get started. All right, so I'm going to share my screen again so we can see our PIN number. All right, so the PIN number for this game is going to be 2337934. I will go ahead and put that in the chat. So if you guys if the game starts before you're able to join, you can still put in the PIN number. As long as the game is active, you can still join. All right, I put it in there, and then Miss Olga also put it in there. Thank you so much, Miss Olga. All right, looks like we are getting some joiners. And then, like I said, I will definitely take time to go over some of the questions, because I know it gives you about 45 seconds for each question. So I just want to make sure that everybody gets a proper explanation so that we can get as much circulatory guideline practice as we can. All right, we are getting a lot of people in. Amazing job. All right. I will give it about 5 more seconds, and then we'll go ahead and get started. 5, 4, 3, 2. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, Guideline Mastery, week 5. I can't believe we are already in week 5. All right, first question. What category is hypertension with heart conditions? Is it red, I-13, blue, I-12, yellow, I-50, or green, I-11? Yes. And then there's also in the chat, definitely, if you are trying to get more guideline mastery in, definitely make sure to try out the live CPT guideline mastery session that we have on Fridays as well. That's definitely a great thing to bring up. You cannot go wrong with guideline practice. It is always a good thing to have. All right. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, it is going to be yellow, I-50, and I will explain that in the explanation, and I will also provide what guideline you can reference as well, how we got to those answers. So our number 1 is Diligent Crab. Amazing job. Next one, true or false? For a documented hypertensive crisis, hypertensive urgency, or a hypertensive emergency, assign code from category I-20. Is it true or false? For hypertensive crisis, urgency, or emergency, code category I-20. True or false? I know you guys are putting a lot of awesome answers in the chat as well. Great job. All right. Amazing. So it is going to be false. And I will provide the correct guideline and answer again at the end. All right. In first place, now we have Smiling Goose. Nice job, Smiling Goose. All right. Next up. What code is used for healed myocardial infarctions requiring no further care? Is it going to be I-25.2, blue I-27.1, yellow Z92.82, or green I-21.3? And again, you can access all of these, you can find all the answers to all of these questions in the guidelines. So I made it to make sure that all of the answers are going to be found in the guidelines. So healed myocardial infarctions requiring no further care. What are we thinking? Got about 5 seconds left. All right, and it is going to be red I-25.2. Healed myocardial infarctions, no further care. All right. Oh my goodness, all kinds of switch up. Agile Blackbird is now in first place. All right, next up. What category is used for sequela of cerebrovascular disease? Is it red I-69, blue I-50, yellow I-97, or green I-13? What category is used for sequela of cerebrovascular disease? You got this one, guys. And you can find all of the answers are going to be hidden in the guidelines, the circulatory guidelines. About 5 more seconds. 4, 3. All right, and the answer is going to be red, category I-69 for sequela of the cerebrovascular disease. Great job in the chat as well. You guys are doing awesome. All right, Agile Blackbird is still staying on top, and we have some people with some answer streaks. Great work. All right, next question. What category is used for hypertension with CKD? Is it red, I-13, blue, I-11, Yellow, I-12, or green, I-10. We just had like a million guidelines. I feel like we had one guideline we were looking at specifically using this. Yes, perfect. You didn't even need the clue. All right, yes, it is going to be from category I-12. Amazing job. All right. Oh my goodness, Speedy Piranha has sped their way up to first place. Nice job. All right, got a few more. True or false? If type 1 end STEMI evolves to STEMI, assign the STEMI code. Is that true or false? If a type 1 end STEMI evolves to STEMI, assign STEMI code. What are we thinking? Look at those guidelines to help you. You still got a few seconds. True or false? Oh my goodness, you guys did amazing on this one. Yes, it is going to be true. Great work, everyone. Great work. All right. Let's look at this scoreboard. Speedy Piranha, you are killing it in first place. Great job. All right, next question. If a patient has hemiplegia on the left side and no documentation on dominance, what would you use as a default? Would you code it as non-dominant or would you code it as dominant if a patient has hemiplegia on the left side? Again, we did go over this guideline in our scenarios. We did bring this one up, so keep that in mind. You guys got this one. I know you do. All right, great job. You would code it as non-dominant if the patient has their left side and no documentation. Great work. If it's right side, if it was said right side, then you would code it as dominant. All right, Speedy Piranha, you are still in first place. Amazing job. All right, true or false? When a patient has both acute renal failure and chronic kidney disease, both conditions should be coded. True or false? When a patient has acute renal failure and chronic kidney disease. True or false? Both conditions, should they be coded? Amazing job in the chat. Definitely put your answers in the chat. If you are chatting with us, great job. I see a few answers in there already. Great work. All right, 10 more seconds. And you can find these all in our guidelines section. All right, it is going to be true. Both conditions should be coded. Great work, everybody. All right. Oh, a little drama. Smiling Goose is back in first place. But you guys are all racking up some points, so great work. All right, another true or false. If a patient has angina and atherosclerotic heart disease, use a combination code. What? Use a combination code, code them separately. Does that one make sense? True or false? I'll go over that. I don't know if that's worded quite. That's worded super difficult. So just try your best on this one, guys. That one's a little hard. All right, we'll go ahead and we might skip that one. And then there's one more question after this, and we will go over the explanations. All right. I'll go over that. I think I worded that one a little difficult. I apologize for that. I will fix it. But the scores look like they are staying the same. All right. And then last question for the night, true or false? An assumed relationship exists between hypertension and chronic kidney disease. True or false? Again, this was like one of the super popular guidelines that we were referencing in our scenarios. You guys got this one. An assumed relationship exists between hypertension and chronic kidney disease. All right. And indeed, it is true. There is an assumed relationship between hypertension and chronic kidney disease. Nice job. Great work. Let's see who came out in first place. Or if you got on the podium, definitely shout yourself out. Speedy Piranha in third place. Second place, Smiling Goose. And first place, who could it be? Stellar Crane. Oh, nice job. All right. And great job to everyone. Great job. Great job. I am going to stop sharing my screen. All right. And then I'm going to grab, let's see. I'm going to grab our PowerPoint so we can go over these answers. All right. Perfect. Perfect. All right. So these are going to be the answers. It randomized them in Kahoot, but these are the answers. And then this is going to be the explanations with both of them. So the first question, the category hypertension with heart condition. This is going to be referencing our guideline IC9A1. And so you're going to be using code or category code I50. And again, this is going to be recorded. So if you want to, look back on this video, and you can pause these. So if you want to look up all of the guidelines individually and double check, so you can get some more practice, you can totally do that. But I'm not gonna screenshot and look at every single guideline, but these are all of them if you want to go back and look at them in more detail. Our next question is going to be true or false. If type 1 NSTEMI evolves to STEMI, assign code STEMI. And this is going to be true. A lot of you guys got that one right. We're going to be referencing our guideline IC9E1. And it states directly on there that if type 1 NSTEMI evolves to STEMI, assign the STEMI code. And then if type 1 STEMI converts to NSTEMI due to the thrombolytic therapy, it is still coded as STEMI. All right. So that was a good one. And then number 3, what code is used for healed myocardial infarctions requiring no further care? Our guideline we're going to be referencing to that is IC9E1. And this is going to be the code that we're going to be using, I25.2. Again, you can look up specifically in the guidelines section and find those, or look them up in your NCG manual. All right, next one, true or false? If a patient has angina and atherosclerotic heart disease, use a combination code, code them separately. So this is false. So it says in this guideline IC9B, if a patient has angina and atherosclerotic heart disease, use a combination code and do not code them separately. So I think I just kind of manipulated the words on that one. So that was my bad, but that is going to be, it's the direct code. It's a direct quote from the guideline. I just deleted a word to make it false, but it says in the guidelines to do not code them separately. So that is what's going to make it false. So I apologize about any confusion on that one. And our next question is going to be, what category is used for hypertension with chronic kidney disease? This is going to be using I12. So we're going to be referencing that super popular code that we were looking at a few times in our scenario, IC9A, where it was saying to code the I12 first, and then the second to code for the level of chronic kidney disease, which was the N18 code. So that is why the answer is going to be I12. Our next question, true or false? An assumed relationship exists between hypertension and chronic kidney disease. That is going to be absolutely true. And it states in the guideline IC9A2 that an assumed relationship exists between hypertension and chronic kidney disease. When both are present, assign a code from category I12. So again, super popular super popular guideline there. Next question, if a patient has hemiplegia on the left side and no documentation on dominance, what would you code as a default? So you would code non-dominant. And the guideline we are referencing states that if a patient has hemiplegia on the left side and no documentation on dominance, use the default of non-dominant. And like I said, if the right side was affected without specification, you would default to dominant. All right. Our next question, what category is used for sequela of cerebrovascular disease? We're going to be using guideline IC9D1, and it states right in the guideline that you use category I69. Our next one, true or false, when a patient has both acute renal failure and chronic kidney disease, both conditions should be coded. It is true. Again, you are going to be using the code IC9A3. The next one, for a documentation hypertensive crisis, urgency, or emergency, you're going to code from category I20. This is going to be false. So it states in this guideline, for a documented hypertensive crisis, emergency, or emergency, you code from category I16, hypertensive crisis. So you use category I16, not category I20. That's what makes it false. And that is going to be just a super fast explanation. Again, if you want a little more of an explanation, definitely look at this video again, pause it, and look further into those guidelines. And this is how you look at them in your MCG manual. All righty. So with that being said, thank you. We appreciate you guys, as always, taking time out of your busy Monday to log in and get some guideline mastery goodness. You guys absolutely killed these scenarios today. I hope that you are super proud of yourself. And like we mentioned, there are going to be some other live sessions throughout the week. If you are really interested in the guidelines, make sure to check out the CBT guidelines on Friday. We also have our Wednesday live class as well, or in our Thursday live class. We have tons of live classes. So definitely check those out, and definitely check out the link to the survey before you leave. We definitely want to let us know how we're doing, how we can better have our classes so that you guys can learn as much as you need to so you can kill those certification exams. And we appreciate you joining in for our Monday. And thank you, team, for joining me as well. And I hope that you guys have a wonderful rest of your Monday. Thank you so much.
$4,000 exam passers and free classes at AMCI. Learn to code straight from home or on the road at AMCI. We're on the East Coast, the West Coast. We're all around the world. AMCI. AMCI.